Jesus explains the location of heaven and hell. Philopold says, "One more thing I would like to learn from you, namely, the whereabouts of both heaven and the loathsome hell, of which I have also heard and read much. It says, these will ascend to heaven, and those will be cast down into hell. Where and what is the above, and where and what the extremely deplorable below? Say I, the Lord, look, this chair upon which you are sitting, heaven and hell can be firmly side by side here on earth, yet in the spiritual realm they are separated by an immense chasm. And furthermore, here, where I am now with you, is the uppermost heaven, meaning above, and here is also the deepest and most wicked hell, meaning below. The material whereabouts do not matter, but only the spiritual, which, as you have seen, have nothing at all in common with the material whereabouts. For in the spiritual realm, only the inner state of life determines the true and genuine distance. There, the material spatial cannot ever be of any significance. To make this even more comprehensible for you, I will give you a few examples. Imagine two people sitting here on one and the same chair. One is a pious sage whose bright spirit, full of light, is initiated into many secrets about the effects of the divine forces in nature. The other is a hardened criminal who rests his limbs on the same chair or on the same bench and lets himself be served, like an honest man, with wine and bread to restore his strength, so that he may all the more easily perpetrate some evil deed once he is again outdoors. How closely together the two men are in a material spatial sense, and how infinitely far apart in spirit. On the other hand, assuming that our sage were sitting with us here on this bench, and at the same time, somewhere 1,000 leagues from here, another, these two sages would be very far apart materially spatially, yet in the spiritual realm they would nevertheless be very close together, as is literally the case in my kingdom. From all this, it again becomes quite clear that for every good man, heaven will be exactly where he is at any given moment, and all the good and pure of his kind will immediately be very close to him. It is not a case of, behold, here or there, perhaps beyond all the stars, is heaven, and perhaps somewhere deep down below the earth is hell. All this does not depend on time and space, without any outer pomp like some idle temple ceremony, instead residing within the innermost being of man himself. Just as a man's inner nature is constituted here, so too will be the world in the hereafter, the world that he will create for himself, and then live in and upon, whether good or bad. In my kingdom, the world of all those who are in the truth, and therefore in the true light out of my word, through the living faith, and through their actions according thereto, will also be light and truth in forever increasing measure. Yet the world of those who base their life on falsehood, and thereby on evil, will be more and more like their innermost. For just as a good man keeps getting better over time, an evil man keeps getting worse, and thereby, as far as his inner state is concerned, more distant from all that is good. Look at those men whose pride fills them evermore with a burning lust for power. After they have miserably enslaved many millions of people through their tyranny, they gather still greater hordes of warriors, invading the realms of other kings and conquering them, taking their land, people, and treasures. Once they have, in this way, conquered half the world and brought it great misery, they fancy in their pride to be equal to God, indeed even raising themselves above him, having themselves be venerated, and threatening anyone with the most dire punishment who would dare to worship another god as a Tsar, and bringing sacrifices to him alone. We have a striking example of this in the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. There is no other god but I, the king, and now in the high priests, Pharisees and scribes, who also fancy being the only gods. They persecute me and will one day even be allowed to kill this body of mine, but only for 3 days. For then I shall rise again out of my very own power, and only then will their judgment and their end come upon them. From this you can all see clearly that he who is evil continually grows more evil, just as he who is good grows better, but with a difference, namely that there is a limit set for the evil one when it is said, only this far and not by a hair's breadth further. For then a great judgment must invariably follow, through which the evil ones may be brought again to their senses, and one or the other might perhaps mend his ways. Just as it is in this world, so it is in hell, with the only difference that there, in the general realm of spirits, the good, humble, patient, and those trusting in God are for all eternity segregated, so that, without exception, only the evil ones in hell play their false and evil, yet completely futile game. Futile because their light is falsehood, deceit, and an entirely trifling and empty illusion, like the dream of a wealthy drunken glutton and wastrel.